Hey, what's going on, folks? Bienvenue. My name is Wade, and this is Sabine River Valley. And it's a cold one here today in the Sabine River Valley, at least for Texas. It's 33 degrees this morning, and I got to do a couple things. Need to talk to you about a couple things, because one of these things I'm doing is well, you'll see. Let me get into the T654 and get her cranked up. Might need to let her glow a little. All right. I have yet to have an issue with this tractor cranking. All right, while I let the tractor warm up, let's have us a little talk here. And I got to be honest with you, I'm not sure how to have this talk. I've thought about it a lot, and I don't know. Well, about 2.5 years ago, I bought the T654 here, and I had been doing a ton of research. I don't know about you, but that's what I do. I will spend months researching something because I don't want to make an uneducated decision. I don't want to make a poor decision on something. I want to. You might still, but I want to do as much homework as I can to try not to. And originally, I thought I was going to be buying a John Deere tractor. That's just what I thought I was going to get. Until I went and got a quote for it. And I know that y'all have heard me tell this story before, but I just, I was really shocked. I've watched a couple of videos recently where some people have showed some John Deere pricing, and when you look at it, it's not, it's still higher, but it's not that much higher. It's not what you hear some of us talk about sometimes. But the problem is the tractor that they were showing didn't have anything on it except for, it had the kind of the base model. I think one was a 4066R, and the 4066R already comes with some nice stuff in the cab, but when they did the walk around, they didn't really point out that there was no like rear remotes or anything on that tractor. There was no options on it. And when you start adding those options to that tractor, the price, it skyrockets. Go do I don't know if you can do it on John Deere's. I know that you can do it on a couple of other brands like Kubota or Case. You can go to their website, put in, go to the tractor model that you're looking at, put it in, and I believe they'll give you the MSRP, and they'll let you build it, and it'll start showing you the MSRP for that tractor. And those prices, they skyrocket. It gets up there. I priced a Case just a couple of days ago and got to $100,000 on a very similar model that I like really easily. I just couldn't believe it. I'm going through it, and then I remember getting to it was like in the build process, it was like 7 or 8 options down. I didn't even realize I hadn't even done it yet, but it got to the point where, oh, do you want a loader on the tractor? Yes. And it was almost like 10 grand MSRP. So now I know when you go to a dealership, they will probably be able to work with you and bring that down. But starting at 100K on a tractor, I mean, how much further down are you going to come from that? So I just can't do that. So, but I found TYM, and I was really impressed. Number one, I was impressed that they build their own tractors. They're not hiring out another company. They're not a Bobcat that's using Kioti to build theirs. They're not New Holland in that range that they're using LS to build their tractors. This was a company that actually makes their own tractors. So I liked that a lot. I also really liked that a lot of the stuff they were doing was beneficial to tractor owners, and the fact that the emission systems weren't crazy in them. This tractor here has a diesel oxidation catalyst. It doesn't have a diesel particulate filter in it. It doesn't use DEF fluid. It just has that dock in it. And there's no regen on this. There's no regen system to go bad. I really liked that. A lot of the other models on the TYMs that TYM had just bought, when I bought this, TYM had just recently bought Coupe J, right? They bought the Coupe J brand, which came with the Branson Tractor Company. And Coupe J used the A-Series engines in their tractors. This was designed by Cummins years ago, and Coupe J, I guess, was the manufacturer that Cummins used to help manufacture the engines. I'm not 100% sure about that, but there was an agreement between Cummins and Coupe J all those years ago, and Coupe J retained the A-Series designs, and they were able to use them however they wanted to. Well, TYM was using some of the A-Series engines in their tractors, and I think they made a really good decision in buying Coupe J and buying the Branson brand and bringing that in. I really think that some of the Branson tractors are some of the most well-built tractors in their size, and they're just simple, non-computer driven machines that work really well. And TYM also has some machines, some models that are the exact same way. So they bought those, and they expanded, they've expanded their line to keep, they call it the T series now, TYM, they call it the T series engines, and they might have a diesel particulate filter on them, but there's no computer driving that. There's no ECM, ECU that's doing that. It has a temperature and a pressure sensor at both ends of the filter, and a little controller that is reading that sensor data, and if the pressure builds up or the temperature isn't right, if it falls within a certain parameter, it lights up a light on your dash and tells you, hey, your diesel particulate filter needs to be cleaned out. And then there's a controller that allows you to initiate a regeneration, right? A regen on there. And once you do that, and those sensors start registering the correct parameters, again, that light goes off on the dash. That's it. That's all there is. There's no ECM controlling that. And that's great. And so TYM has that in a lot of their tractors now. The Branson tractors, the models, they've come over and they've rebranded them as TYM. They've kept a lot of those. Now, I don't think that they're going to be able to continue that forever. Something's going to have to give there, right? And my hope is that what they'll do is they'll combine the just kind of the build quality, that beefiness of the Branson tractors with the kind of the fit and finish of the TYM tractors, right? A lot of the Bransons used to have the loader valve on the loader, right? So the control was up here, I'd like to, see a lot of those models, kind of go to the TYM on the fender type loader control. The cabs are bigger in the TYMs, it seems. There's things on both sides of those brands. I would love to see them combine into new models and do that. And that's something like that's gonna have to happen. They can't keep making all those same tractors. So, but back to my story. So I went out and found this T654 here and started doing, did a lot of research, found that I believe there was Small Farm Innovations had done a video with Tony's Tractor Adventure, that there was some really good information on that. Evan over at Country View Acres was running a T654, and he was baling hay with it, which is one of my main goals to be able to do with my tractor, is to bale my own hay here on our farm. And so the T654 just really fit what we were looking for in a tractor. And the price for the size, for 67 engine horsepower and 62 PTO horsepower, the price was very reasonable. So that's what we pulled the trigger on. Now, when I bought this tractor, they didn't have it at my dealership. I had to order it. So I went in, told them what I wanted. I wanted a power shuttle version of the T654. This was at the time, I don't know if y'all remember, they used to all have silver wheels on them, and they were coming out with the red wheels. I wanted to make sure that it had the red wheels on it. I know. I just wanted red wheels. I thought they were cool. So, well, I mean, they're going to have to order it anyway. So they found one it was in North Carolina. It was ready to go. So they had it shipped over. It only took a couple of weeks to get it, and it came in. So I went out and picked it up, and I was super excited about it, super excited about grabbing it. I got to the dealership. This was on a Saturday. So I got there early, and they closed early, things like that. Well, there was a little bit of a disappointment when I picked it up. And this is not on my dealer at all. This really falls on TYM. And I'd been doing my research, right? I'd been researching these tractors, and a lot of that comes from the website. So if you go through TYM's website for this tractor, I believe you can still do this, but at the time they had one of those build your own tractor things on the website. And I went through that, and you had everything added on it that you wanted on your tractor. And it's kind of a 360 model. You can, spin the tractor around. You can zoom in and kind of look inside the cab and kind of see what everything is going to look like. And there was some things in that tractor that I thought I was getting. It wasn't just in that modeling system at the time. It was actually worded on the regular area for the T654 on the website also. One of the things I thought I was getting was that Bosch 3-point hitch. I really thought I was getting that electrical hitch. Now, a lot of people that are watching this, you are totally fine with the all mechanical operations. In fact, you probably would rather have the all mechanical operations. And I totally get that. That's something that's easy to fix out in the field. That's something that even if you have to wait for parts, find parts and wait for them to come in on certain things on it, you can still MacGyver it, right? A paper clip and some bubble gum, and you can have it up and going until those parts come in. I totally get that. But I like some of the options that come with that electronic hitch. I like some of the finesse options that you get from it. And, I had been looking at the John Deeres. That's what I had known, and that's what I was looking at originally. And what I thought I was getting really matched that John Deere, right? The 50, I was looking at I believe it was a 5068 at the time. They changed that, 5067, 5068. I think it was a 5068, or, they have the 5075. They have the 4066R. You can go look at all of these, and they have an electronic hitch, right, with some one-touch buttons. In fact, I kind of think the John Deere tractors also use a Bosch system in their tractor. I'm not 100% sure about that, but I kind of think I remember them being a Bosch system in there. So when I ordered this tractor, I thought I was getting pretty much the same thing that John Deere was offering in a tractor with all of that at a much more affordable price. And so when I picked it up and that wasn't in there, I was really upset. I remember I went into the dealership and I sat down, talked to my dealer that I had been working with, and they had an older model on the lot that I had looked at, and I remember looking at that, but for some reason I thought that the Bosch system was a new upgrade, model year upgrade that they had done on the T654. So, I had to make a decision there. Do I keep this tractor? Do I drive off with it, or do I tell them, no, I don't want this? Well, I thought about it. I sat there for a little while and thought about it, and I thought about, well, what tractor am I going to go get that I can afford? That is going to have all this stuff in it. There wasn't anything. So at the time, they had the 5835R that did have the Bosch system, and they were like, we could sell you this one, but it didn't have a cab, right? Also, I don't believe the PTO horsepower on that tractor was going to be enough to do what I was wanting to do as far as baling hay. That tractor can do a bunch of stuff, but that PTO horsepower just wasn't enough. So I made the decision to just go ahead and accept the T654, and I went ahead and took it home. And that was my decision, and I do think I made the right decision on that. Again, what else was I going to go get that had everything on it that I wanted, that I could afford? There wasn't anything out there. So I took it home, and I've been using it for this last 2.5 years, and it's been a great tractor. I I don't have really any issues with the tractor itself. But in the back of my mind, you know, it's still, this has been playing out. And, you know, uh, yeah, it's just, I think it's been wearing on me a little, and you know, a little bit more and a little bit more through this time. So, well, some things have changed since then, and I've really been just kind of out there looking, and I think it's time that I got rid of my TYM and got what I really want in a tractor. And I mean, that's tough to say because it really has been a good tractor. But yeah, it's just, I think it's time. So that's what I'm doing. I'm gonna do a little bit to clean it up, and I got to hook up my truck to the trailer, and then I need to get this loaded on there. But I'm gonna trade it in. I'm gonna get me a new tractor. All right, so one of the things I gotta do is put my drawbar back on. I pulled a trailer with this at that Christmas parade, and I used that drawbar, and I had to change the configuration for it. But now put that back on. Woo, it's cold. Oh man. Let's see. Yeah, that's in there. Today is not the day to have the plumber pants on. That wind finds its way right down in there. All right. All right. There we go. Drawbars on. Pin is in place. Now, I want to take that off. So, you know, I've got 3 sets of rear remotes on here. One of them I have dedicated for my hydraulic top link, but I'm going to take that top link off because I want to keep that. I've got my old top link I'm going to put on. First thing, though, I need to do is relieve the pressure from inside the cab on this. Now, when you're doing that, if you have, I don't know if it's necessary to turn the key on, because this is the mechanical system for the hydraulics. If you're doing a third function and you're going to relieve the pressure on the third function, our third function uses an electronic spool valve, and so you need to have the key on the power. You don't want the tractor cranked. You don't want the pump running in the tractor because that just builds more pressure up. You just want the key on to turn the electronics on in the tractor so that it'll power that spool, and you can open and close it with the buttons. And what that does is it allows the
that circuit to be completed, right? And it allows the stuff to flow through there. But since the pump isn't pumping, you're not building more pressure. So it just kind of levels out that fluid across there, and you won't have that pressure built up the next time you go and plug it in. Now, that's kind of true and kind of not. You know, when you have barometric pressure changes in the weather, that can actually build more pressure up behind there. So it's not always just totally easy. If you've had it unplugged for a long time and the temperature has changed during that time, it can build up pressure behind it too, but it won't be nearly as much as it is just the hydraulic pressure being built up there. So anyway, but I'm going to go in and I'm going to relieve the pressure on this, and then I'll unhook that. I'm going to make sure I have a clean rag ready because we're going to get a little bit of leakage on this. I don't know the last time I took these off. I don't know that I've had these off. Cleaned up. That's dirty too. You want to make sure that anything that your couplers are touching is good and clean, because you can get that into your hydraulic system, and it can plug up your filter. It can cause wear inside. Just little pieces of dirt or sand can act as almost like a sandpaper inside there when it's going through your hydraulic system. So you just want to make sure that you have this stuff as clean as possible. Next side. This pin. There we go. All right. Well, folks, I got a little nervous there because I could not find that thing. Yeah, I could see it in my head leaning in a certain place in my garage, but when I got there, it was not there. So, but I found it. All right. The pin in. Now. Okay, so I just did something kind of stupid, but let me explain myself. So I've had this in my toolbox forever, and I thought that was the original cap that ran over that PTO shaft, but it doesn't go on tight. Also, these little holes don't line up with the bolts that are back here, and so I'm not sure. I don't think that's it, but I did find this one, and it just pushes right on. It was in the same place this one was, so maybe that's what was originally on there. I'm not sure. But while I was down here, this tractor has the option for 1,000 PTO RPM, and normally on a tractor, the way that works is you take the two bolts out here and remove the plate, and the shaft comes out, and you flip it around and put it back in. I'd never done this on that tractor, and I was like, well, this is my last chance to see that, right? So I took that off to look, and when I did, and that plate came off, hydraulic fluid came out. And I took the plate off and looked, and there was just a bearing sitting there. And so I don't think that this actually pops out like that and flips around to a different spline size. So I just put it back on. I think it was just made a mess. That's all it did. But I was able to look there. Now I'm not guessing that can be flipped around. I know that that's not how that works. I guess you would have to have an adapter. You'd put an adapter on here that would change your spline size so that you could run a 1000 RPM PTO RPM implement on the back. All right, new truck, new piece of gear. I'm pretty excited about. Something that I've wanted for a long time. Now, when you are hauling a trailer with a truck, that trailer the truck has limits to what the trailer can haul. The trailer has its own limits, but then the truck has a limit to the weight of the trailer plus anything that the trailer is hauling on it. So a total weight, all that together. There's also something called a tongue weight that a truck has a limit on. And if you have ever noticed somebody that has a trailer and they're pulling it, and the front of the trailer and the back of the truck are kind of pushed down like that while they're moving, they call that squat. So they'll have too much squat on that. And what it is it's basically there's too much on the tongue. There's too much tongue weight on that trailer for that truck. So trucks have a specific amount, like a max amount that they're allowed to have. The other thing though is that if you back up too far behind the rear axles of the trailer, you pull up on the truck. And when you do that, then you are too far back. You don't have enough tongue weight. And I don't know if you've ever seen one of these videos where these people are loading something onto a trailer and they get it on the back of the trailer and the trailer pulls that truck up in the air, and all of a sudden that truck, it was just in gear, right? And that was what was keeping it from moving. Well, now it's off of those rear tires, and the whole thing, the truck and the trailer, starts moving because they're kind of on a grade, right? Like a downgrade, and it starts moving. That's because that truck came off of that, and the tongue weight pulled that truck in the air. So the tongue weight, it just shows you what the tongue weight can do. If you're driving down the road and you don't have enough tongue weight, if the equipment is too far back behind the axle, the weight, what that'll do is that, if you've ever seen that, that'll cause what I call fishtailing. So that trailer will start moving back and forth. It looked like a fish's tail moving, right? And so, and that will get, if you're not careful, that'll get real squirrely on you, and it can turn the whole trailer over. It can actually pull the truck over. So tongue weight, the proper place for tongue weight is very important. You always want a little bit of, you always want a majority of the weight, like maybe 51%, something like that. The majority in front of those axles just a little bit, but you don't want it too far where you've got too much tongue weight on the truck. So how do you know how much tongue weight you've actually got on the truck? Well, there's a company called WaySafe who has a product that actually has a gauge built in to the ball that you're using with your truck. So you can get this in a gooseneck configuration. You can also get it in like a drop hitch ball configuration. And what this does is it's the actual gooseneck ball itself. So this is a B&W style, like my truck has, but it has a gauge right here built into it. So if you ever want to know for sure what your tongue weight is, this is the perfect piece of equipment to do that with. And once you get it on there and you start using it, you'll know, you'll have maybe different configurations of that tractor. Well, you'll know each one of those configurations. You'll be able to mark it on the trailer that you use. So you'll be able to load up really quickly. You won't even have to immediately go look at this. You'll just know, because you've already done the work with it. You'll know exactly each time where that tractor needs to be on that trailer. And it'll work for anything else, not just a tractor, but anything else that you load up. You'll be able to know for sure what the tongue weight is. So I'm super excited about using this. Again, this is WaySafe, And I have a coupon code and a link. I'll put that in the description of the video. You can use that and you can actually save, I believe it's 10%. So you can 10% saving off of the price of this if you'll use that. So you just take yours out, drop this one in, and then I'll come over, hit the lever on the side. Now, she's locked in. She's not going anywhere. And I'll know for sure how much weight I've got on the tongue of this truck. So let's look here real quick. Right now, I'm registering right at about 3,000 pounds. But if you'll look here, my max tongue weight on a gooseneck is 2757 pounds. So I need to back off just a little bit to bring that under right around 2,700 pounds, maybe a little less. We'll see what it looks like on the trailer though. But you can tell right now, see, I could have just left that and thought, hey, I'm good. But this right here is showing me that I'm over my max tongue weight. So we are at about 2,000 pounds right there. And if you can see, I am way up far on the trailer, but I'm pretty sure that most of the weight is at the front. I kind of worry that it's too much, that I normally would, except for the fact that I know that I'm not hitting my tongue weight because I can see it right here. So I am very comfortable where it's sitting as far as I'm not gonna fishtail. That's my number one worry, because that has potential to hurt the tractor, the trailer, me, and other people driving around me. So I'm not gonna fishtail, number one. But number two, I'm not maxing out the tongue weight on my truck here. It's sitting in a very good spot. So I'm gonna be okay with this. I think I'm gonna leave it right here, and this is where we're gonna tie it down at. All right, so normally I've tied my tractor down through the loader tube and stretched it forward, and then the rear drawbar, that pin, and stretched it back that way. But I'm going to try a new way. And it's just something I've been wanting to do for a while. So these are these DeWalt straps. They're axle straps, and they have a max working, or a safe working load of 4,000 pounds, and then a max brake strength of 12,000. So if I do one at each end, then I'm not going to worry about being too far or too close to that. That'll total, it'll be about 16,000 pounds. All right, here we go. So here's the deal. I don't dislike this tractor at all. That's not, you know, I've said this before, and I just want to iterate that. I don't have an issue with this tractor. It does a great job. It never let me down. It did everything that I ever asked it to do. It's just that it's not what I wanted from the get-go. That's all it is. And, you know, it's just been slowly wearing on me. So, now that I have the opportunity to get what I want, I'm going to do that. There we go. All right. So, let's get on down the road and we'll get it done. All right. Here we are. Look at that. There she is. All right. Bring you with me. Man. All right, well, full circle, huh?